I want to show you how to use Markdown, and I'm going to do it in Posit Cloud, and there's only really one minor difference between doing it in Posit Cloud and doing it on your own computer. So to start with, you could either click on File, or more conveniently get the same thing if you use this pull down immediately to the right of the green cross. So I click on New File, and I click on R Markdown, and it tells me it's going to have to require updated versions of a bunch of things, so you do want to install these packages now, and I will say yes, of course. It's going to take a few minutes. Watch the red print go by. Keep going. We know we're done when we see the greater than prompt. This is going to happen when you use your own computer as well. Okay. Title, untitled. And I'm just going to call this thing Class Demo. And it's set for a default of HTML, and I'm going to change it to say Word. Word is what we're normally going to be using. Okay. And then we say OK. So what I got over here is an RMD document. And it starts out with some YAML, which is the stuff between 3 dashes on top, 3 dashes on the bottom, and then some critical control information in the middle. Okay, and then the rest of this thing, and let me introduce you to the tear-off. The tear-off is this thing right here. It says Show in New Window. You can do this on your own computer too. And this is the document that we're working on. And all this stuff you're going to want to get rid of, but it's put there to give you sort of an illustration, a little demonstration of the capabilities of R Markdown. So I'm just going to return this thing to its position in the tab environment. And then I'm going to knit. Okay? So let's look at what we've got here before I knit it. There's this stuff. There's 2 hash marks and an R Markdown. Some description. Then this doesn't really need to be here. You just need the R. This is a chunk. What you're looking at in an RMD file includes just regular text with some potential for extra formatting, like you see here with the 2 asterisks. We'll see what the 2 asterisks do, and we'll see what the 2 hash marks here do after we knit. But those are text formatting controls. Then you begin a chunk. 3 backticks, curly's R. Then there's some kind of a command, as many lines of R code as you want. And then there's 3 backticks to end the chunk. Now the rules for working with R Markdown documents: plain text goes outside of chunks. You can write anything you want outside a chunk. Inside a chunk, what you write has to be legitimate R code, or it'll fail. Okay? Also, the top boundary here and the bottom boundary here of a chunk are sacred. Don't ever put anything else on these lines, okay? But let's go ahead and let's see what knitting does. And you're given the option, you could knit to any of those different output formats. And I'm going to stick with Word. And now it wants me to repeat that name. And I'm going to call it Class Demo. This should be there by default, but it's not. Okay. And we'll say Save. So RStudio has finished rendering this RMD file to a demo.docx file. And it says, do you want to download the file? Well, yeah, I'd like to take a look at it. And here's what the knitted document looks like. You notice that the two hash marks or pound sign, whatever you want to call them, followed by R Markdown, that produced a level 2 heading. And you notice the two asterisks around the knit, that produced this. And here's what we had in our chunk. We had in the chunk we had summary cars, and you see the command that you wrote in the chunk, and you see the output of the command. And there's also plots. And it was the echoing of the command to do this was suppressed by the echo equal false parameter. It was added to the code chunk. Okay? So that is the way you do Markdown documents. Now, most of the time, you are not going to have to create a Markdown document from scratch, except perhaps when you do the labs. But the reading assignments, I've already created Markdown documents, and I've given you the chunks, and I've got one sitting here in my downloads folder. I've got RA1. This is the assignment that you've got to do for next week, RA1.RMD. Okay. So I'm going to upload that RMD file. So we'll go over here again to upload. And it says choose file. And I'm going to go to my downloads folder. Fortunately, it was already there. I'll click on RA1.RMD. And I click on OK. Now I've got my RMD file sitting here. And if I just click on my RA1.RMD file, let's watch what happens. It opens it up over here. It is now a second tab in your tabbed editor window. And here are the instructions. Complete the indicated exercises from Mono Statistics with R. Note how I did that in italics. Place your code in the provided chunks and whatever commentary is called for outside the chunks. Place your code here. So I would write whatever my code here, whatever exercise 2.1 calls for, and I would say x equals 2 times 3, and then display x. And chunks, when you're just working on the building your file, you have the option to run the chunk individually, and at the top line of every chunk, you'll see two things over here. One is this green arrow pointing to the right, and I'll just click on that. And what happened was that it ran these two commands, and I see the output that I get from that command. Then when I knit the file, that will be there. Okay? But of course, when you knit it, you're going to get the ra1.docx file. Let me show you how that works. So I click knit to Word. It says RStudio has finished rendering. Download the file. We'll look at it. And we see what has happened here. We see there's our first chunk. Okay. So this is a fairly simple process. So again, when you're starting with an RMD file, you don't have to create a new Markdown file. It's already sitting there waiting for you. I said there's a there's a minor difference. There are actually two minor differences between doing it in Posit Cloud and doing it on your own computer. One is that when you're done on Posit Cloud, you have to download the file. The second thing is that there's an option here under knit. If we use this pull down, we can knit to HTML, knit to PDF. On your computer, unless you've installed LaTeX, which is looks like it's spelled latex, you can knit to PDF. And sometimes people like that because it looks a little bit better. So there's the same thing as a PDF document. Okay. And here's the PDF document. So now I've got three versions of reading assignment 1. The original RMD file, the docx file, and the PDF document. And of course, what you always want, the instructions in Moodle tell you that we want to see this as a docx file. Okay, so that's about all there is for that. Let's stop this recording.